Hey, good evening. I'd like to call to order this meeting of the Highland Park Board of Education. The New Jersey Open Public Meetings Act was enacted to ensure the right of the public to have advance notice of and to attend the meetings of the public bodies at which any business affecting their interest is discussed or acted upon. In compliance with the Open Public Meetings Act, the Highland Park Board of Education has caused notice of this meeting, setting forth the time, date, and location to be submitted for publication to the Home News Tribune and Courier News and posted on the board's website at least 48 hours in advance of this meeting. Members of the public who wish to address the board will be given the opportunity to do so before the board adjourns for the evening.
Dr. Beatty? Ms. Cassell Dunn?
Here.
Dr. Coleman? Mr. Maldonado?
Here.
Dr. Pixley? Ms. Bruce?
Here.
Dr. Schoolman? Ms. Stanio?
Here.
Ms. Bardman?
Here.
And Dr. Beatty?
Here.
Okay, and now, be it resolved pursuant to the Sunshine Act, the Highland Park Board of Education will now meet in closed session to discuss HIBs and personnel matters. These exemptions are permitted to be discussed in closed session. Information regarding the board's closed session discussion will be disclosed to the public as soon as the need for confidentiality no longer exists. I move that we recess to executive session. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, I would like to reconvene this meeting of the Board of Education to regular session.
Dr. Beatty?
Here.
Ms. Cassell Dunn?
Here.
Dr. Coleman? Mr. Maldonado?
Still here.
Dr. Pixley?
Here.
Ms. Bruce?
Here.
Dr. Schoolman? Ms. Stanio?
Here.
Ms. Bardman?
Here. Now the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we received 3 communications, one about snow removal on school grounds and one about the budget considerations for sports uniforms. Now we do the approval of minutes.
I move.
I move.
Second.
Dr. Beatty?
Yes.
Ms. Cassell Dunn?
Yes.
Mr. Maldonado?
Yes.
Dr. Pixley?
Yes.
Ms. Bruce?
Yes.
Dr. Schoolman? Ms. Stanio? Ms. Bardman?
Yes. Okay, and now we can move on to the student representative reports.
Okay. We summarized all of the reports from this month and last month. So should we start with last month or okay. So for the month of February, from Irving, we have like with the PTSO support. Oh wait. Sorry. 1 sec. Okay. So for February, Irving celebrated Black History Month, and students had the opportunity to explore exhibits throughout the school depicting famous Black Americans. And Irving held a family Zoom night and a family yoga night. And the kindergarten class watched Curious George during their trip to the State Theater. They thank everyone for supporting these fun educational opportunities. And from Bartle, Bartle kicked off their first day of every week in February with dress down days, and students wore jerseys, pajamas, team colors throughout the month to promote kindness, teamwork. Yeah, and finally they continued their daily attendance challenge. And for middle school, they continued their attendance challenge with 6th graders coming in first place, and they also held dance on March 6th and would like to thank everyone who helped coordinate it and set it up. For the high school, we had a guest speaker for the Holocaust Remembrance Day, and we also had our Lunar New Year celebrations and our Black History Month with guest speakers. And we also had dedicated Spirit Week, and students had the opportunity to select courses for the next year, and they encourage parents to stay informed on the classes that the school offers. And finally, they look forward to kicking off the spring sports. For March, Irving, with the PTSO support, Irving hosted author Victoria Can. So, students learned about her books and were encouraged to find joy in reading this month. And they thank the PTSO for making this event possible. They also honored Women's History Month by shouting out female staff over announcements and hosted Silly Billy, a reptile handler who brought 6-foot python for the preschoolers and kindergartners. And finally, Irving hosted Family Fit Night through NJEA Fast Grant sponsorship. Parents and children got to participate in physical fitness activities together. They encourage parents to attend their next Zoom evening on April 9th to participate in art lessons.
Sure. Yeah. Oh, Bree, just turn on your mic. Sorry.
So for the month of March, Bartle celebrated Read Across America and would like to thank Mayor Elsie Foster, the Highland Park Police Department, and district administrators for being guest readers. They also held their Bartle Talent Show and celebrated students' comedy, singing, magic tricks, and more. They also look forward to hosting Career Day later this month. And for the middle school, their spring dance was a wonderful success. They would like to shout out the PTSO and parent volunteers for making the night magical. The 8th grade is leading the March IXL Math Challenge, which will continue throughout the year. Middle school is also currently celebrating Spring Spirit Week and looks forward to friendly competition during their pep rally this Friday. The 6th grade also enjoyed a trip to the Liberty Science Center and had fun learning about science. Finally, for the high school, they have begun their spring sports and would encourage families to come out and support their teams. DECA also attended the state competition in Atlantic City, with 20 students moving on to ICDC in Atlanta, Georgia next month. The Model UN team visited Philadelphia, where they explored democracy and historical sites, as well as the Third Circuit Court of Appeals. 23 out of their 29 participating students won awards at the Model UN conference. The juniors also completed their NJGPA testing, and all grades have finished scheduling for next year. This week, Student Congress is hosting their Spirit Week, and the school is also looking forward to their own pep rally this Friday. And that concludes updates for March.
Oh, thank you. So now we can move on to the superintendent's report.
Good evening, everyone. Well, Bree, first I want to congratulate you on, I believe, first place for mock trial. So something fantastic. You want to share?
I was part of the mock trial team as a court reporter, and I qualified for the national competition next month in Iowa.
Yes. Congratulations. Okay, and any other comments or questions for the students? Okay, so good evening, everybody. Always my favorite when we get to spotlight some amazing and well-deserving students. So first, I'd like to call up to the podium Miss McNally, principal at Irving, for some of our Irving friends.
Well, good evening, everybody. As always, it's a pleasure. One of my favorite things to do is to talk about our well-deserved awards for our students. Love, would you like to come up with me?
Yeah.
Our first student who was nominated is Lev. What grade are you in?
Kindergarten.
You are a big kindergartner who's learned so much this year. And Lev is a wonderful leader in his kindergarten classroom and a truly kind and inclusive friend to everyone. You are eager to participate in discussions. You ask really good questions. And you share your ideas with the class. You especially enjoy reading geodes and loves learning about science. What is your favorite thing to learn about in science?
Doing experiments.
Love it. All right. So you love learning about science, and I also heard that you're fascinated by space and dinosaurs. I love it. All right. And you're very curious and you love joining classroom conversations and you have a lot to offer in those conversations. And you speak both Hebrew and English, which is not easy to do. You know more than me. All right. Outside of school, you're also very busy, right? So you stay active by attending music and swim classes, and you play on a basketball team. These are all awesome things that you do. You enjoy arts and crafts with your mom, and you love listening to rock music with your dad. Do you have a favorite? Just all of it? Okay. So when you grow up, I also heard you want to be a guitarist. Is that true? All right. It's so neat. I love hearing that. And your enthusiasm for learning and your caring attitude are what make you a wonderful choice for Irving Student Spotlight. So congratulations, Lev. Very well deserved. All right, up next, we are going to recognize Vanessa in first grade. I don't see Vanessa here, but that's okay. We'll make sure that she gets to listen to this. But Vanessa was nominated for a number of reasons, and she has shown tremendous growth in reading, both in skills and enthusiasm. She loves to volunteer and helps other students in the classroom who may need more support. Her love for reading is apparent along with her confidence and her desire to learn across all subject areas. Next fun fact about Vanessa, she is empathetic and she really cares about those friends around her. She loves to help her teachers in the classroom and she loves helping me with the morning announcements. She goes on a streak and she will make sure she is downstairs by 8:30. She has to be first to do the pledge or the school chant. So I love when she helps me with those. She always makes it a point to try her best and really demonstrates our Irving expectations. She always includes her classmates during free choice play or if they do not have a friend to play with. She is a joy and truly embodies the Irving School spirit in her demeanor, upbeat personality, and her desire to learn. So huge congratulations to Vanessa.
Well, thank you, Ms. McNally, and to our favorite Irving Dragons, and thank you, congratulations on such a great accomplishment. Congratulations, Lev. All right, I next like to call up Dr. Morlero. Tonight we're going to spotlight one of a huge accomplishment for one of our student athletes.
Great. Well, I love doing these at the board meetings. It's been a tremendous 9 months. This past winter, was truly remarkable to be a part of. Tonight, on behalf of the Highland Park District and the Athletics Department, I'd like to recognize an outstanding student athlete, both in the classroom and on the court, whose commitment, his perseverance, and leadership really left a lasting mark on our program. Cooper Ballantyne has had an exceptional basketball career representing Highland Park. Through the years of hard work, discipline, dedication to the team, Cooper recently achieved one of the most significant milestones in our program's history. This season, Cooper became only the 8th boys basketball player in Highland Park history to score 1,000 career points, even though he was going to end up with 999. Even more remarkable is he's the first Highland Park player to reach this milestone in the last 24 years. He finished his career with an impressive 1,006 points, While the numbers themselves are extraordinary, what they represent is even more meaningful. They represent years of commitment to not only himself, but to his teammates, to the countless hours in the gym, uh, the heartaches, the struggles, blood, sweat, tears, all of it, and the resilience required to compete at such a high level while representing our school with pride. Cooper's achievement reflects not only his individual dedication, but also the strength of our basketball program, the support of his coaches, his teammates, and the pride of our Highland Park community. Cooper, on behalf of the district, the Board of Ed, and the entire Highland Park community, we congratulate you on this incredible accomplishment and thank you for the legacy you leave behind for our program. Please join me in recognizing Cooper for an outstanding basketball career at Highland Park. I'd also like to just, if we have a brief moment, invite Coach Copper up here. He has a few words to say as well. I know he's been instrumental to your success.
Thank you. It's just quick. Just want to recognize Cooper. Yeah, Dr. Mark, thank you. You said it all. But overall, Cooper has been the captain of our program. I've worked with him for the last 2 years. I've known him since he was middle school. He's worked really hard. I always knew he was going to get it. But reaching this 1,000 points reflects his heart, his commitment, and the legacy that he leaves for future Owls coming up to the high school. So I hope they chase it. I hope they break it one day. But Coop, I'm very proud of you. Very proud to be part of it. So thank you. Thank you. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay. Again, one more round of congratulations to Cooper, to Lev, to Vanessa, to, oh, is that Vanessa coming in? Oh, would you mind repeat, with everybody okay with a quick little repeat? Yeah. Okay, thank you. All right, yay.
That's great. All right, Vanessa, now that you're here, I want to take a moment to recognize you as one of our student spotlights. Sound good? Deserving? Totally. All right. So, Vanessa, we know that you're in first grade, right? So, I want to tell you a couple of things in your nomination that I hope make you feel very special. All right. So, you have shown tremendous growth in reading, both in skills and enthusiasm. You love to read now? Yeah, I know. You love to volunteer and help other students in the classroom who may need support. Your love for reading is apparent along with your confidence and your desire to learn across all subject areas. You are empathetic and you really care about those around you, and you love to help your teachers in the classroom. And I was telling everybody before how much you love doing the morning announcements. Do you feel like a professional at that? You have to come tomorrow. Okay. So Vanessa makes a point to always try her best, and you always demonstrate the expectations at Irving. You include your classmates during free choice play, or if they do not have a friend to play with. Yeah. And you are a joy, and you truly embody the Irving School spirit in your demeanor, which is how kind you are, your upbeat personality, which I always enjoy, and your desire to learn. So a huge congratulations to you. I'm really proud of you. You're very welcome.
All right. So again, congratulations, Lev, Vanessa, and Cooper for just embodying the amazingness that is Highland Park and your continued contributions to the success of the district. So congratulations again. And I'd also like to recognize the staff that came out to support our students tonight. To go above and beyond is always what you do, and that doesn't go unnoticed. So a big warm of thanks to our staff here tonight. Thank you. And my superintendent report continues with the presentation of the preliminary budget. It's must-see TV, very riveting, but you have all had very long days, so I completely respect if you would need to leave to go and take care of other personal things, please feel free to do so. Good night. Thank you.
Are you sitting?
All right, we'll just stand and do this. Let me adjust the. Typically, I mean, it's I'm sensing a trend where we clear out the room. I must. All right, I'm gonna just. No. I'm just gonna since these are the majority of the people in the room, I'm gonna adjust it. All right. So my presentation continues tonight with the tentative budget presentation. So important to note right out of the gate, it is a preliminary budget. So we do this every year. So tonight you get the preliminary budget. We do have to present a balanced preliminary budget to the Department of Education, to the county and the state after tonight. And then we have about 4 or 5 weeks until we have to figure out the actual plan for the final budget.
Just do it.
I don't. I hit the right arrow. Did I?
Click Banner White.
Oh. Oh, there we go. Nope. Yes. Okay. Thank you. I was so close to nailing it. Okay. So just since we only give this presentation once a year, I'm going to reorient the board and the community to how we go about our planning process. It's a long process. So our fiscal budget planning process, we have to align our budget with several key things. The district goals and objectives, our strategic plan, the Elementary and Secondary Education Act, the Every Student Succeeds Act, and the New Jersey Student Learning Standards. And like I said, it's a very long process. We actually start early in the fall. So we start back to school in September, and by October, we're planning the budget. That's typically how it goes because it's a long process. So what happens is around the December, January mark, each administrator meets with myself and Mr. Rosa, and then we go through their wish list items. So they build a budget based on what they think that is going to be needed. That includes if we need more personnel, changes in personnel, resources, programs, things like that. It's all presented during that time frame. And then we usually talk about it. So we go through it and we kind of talk about where we land in that. And sometimes we're able to make some decisions during that time. For example, and they're all part of a collective conversation. So sometimes we find an administrator wants to put in professional development in their budget. We'll go to Ms. Rodriguez from Title II-A and say, hey, can we cover this out of federal funds? Yes, great, take it out of the local budget and we earmark it for federal funds. So those are the types of conversations that happen in December and January every year. And then we bring the administrators in to meet with the Finance and Facilities Committee to review some of those budget items that you've heard being presented from Allison. And then provide the overview of our preliminary budget, and then the final budget in April. So some of the things for budgeting, which are really important to note, is that we put the budget into 3 buckets. The first one, our level 1, is our required mandatory ones that are legal requirements. So anything that is legal has to be in the budget. So that usually falls in, for example, ESL requirements or special education. So for example, in this budget season, our projections show that we will have to increase a special education class at Bartle. So we'll have to hire another teacher. So that gets built into the budget. So all of those legal requirements fall into a must do. Those are first, obviously, top priority. The second priority are those that are required by board policy. So if there's anything in board policy, we have to make sure we budget for that. For example, if we offer more units for graduating high school or something like that, we have to plan for that in our staffing. So anything that would be board policy. If you make a board policy that we want to ban cell phones and we want them locked up, we have to budget for the resources to lock them up. So those would be examples of a level 2 budgeted item. And then the level 3 budgeted items would be items that are not required, but a high investment for our community. And so examples of that would be, we have a really robust mental health program and social emotional learning programs across the district. That is a high priority from myself, obviously, in the community, but it's a level 3 because it's not a requirement. Or our music programs. So we go above and beyond standards in some areas. Unfortunately, over the years, that has kind of dwindled a little bit. And that's unfortunate usually of where if we have to have to be a little bit more fiscally sound, that's usually where we're going to start our cuts, or those things that, yes, mean a lot to us, but are unfortunately are not required by your policy and not required by the DOE's or legal requirements. So heading into this budget process. So one of the things we do is we build those budgets based on needs. So the projected needs and all of those budgets. There's obviously unforeseen expenses that come up throughout the year that we have to take into account as well. And so then we usually get the note of here's how much we have to look to trim based on all of these wonderful wants and needs that we would like, and then come up with this tentative balanced budget. So some of the things going into this budget that put us in a particularly trying fiscal year includes a continued increased cost for students with disabilities. On some of the subsequent slides, Mr. Rosa is going to highlight and show that we actually have we're paying less out of district tuition, which is phenomenal. That means we are educating peers with their peers in the school district. Amazing. But you'll see an increase in another line item as a result of that. So you'll see a decrease in one, but an increase in another as a result of shifting students from out of district back into district, which will require some additional resources and staffing needs to be able to do that. As you've seen, our facilities, there's been some wear and tear over time that hasn't necessarily been addressed. So making sure we address those facility needs are really important, that our students have safe and secure places to learn and healthy places to learn. The federal and state mandates, which they fund us less, but put on us more. So it doesn't seem to equal itself out, but those mandates have been coming at us as well. Contract obligations. So really the biggest driver, which we'll show you in a couple of subsequent slides, the biggest driver for this fiscal budget year happens to be health benefits. Is probably the single most driver. There's been a significant increase to health benefits, and as you saw from the auditor's riveting presentation, the majority of your pie is personnel, payroll and benefits are your biggest driving costs. So right now we're going into this tentative budget for the first time in the 5 years I've been doing this without knowing the cost of our health benefits. It's been a moving target, unfortunately. We're hoping to get that information soon. We were hoping to have it by tonight, but we just don't have it yet. They're still trying to shop that for us and get some information. So that's really been a big driver heading into this budget process. But we always look for ways to save money. The team is incredible at doing that. We scrutinize every data point. So we look at our enrollments, we look at trends, we look at needs. And what we do is try to present to you all ways to be able to have a balanced budget without an impact on student instruction. So when we do that, we look at it. If it's going to impact student instruction, it's the lowest to get cut. So it's unfortunate when we have to make some challenging decisions, but that's where our head is at when we try to do that. So like I said, the biggest impact to this budget is the health benefits. So right now, the preliminary projected increase is 32%. Like I said, over the past couple of weeks, it's moved from 22% to 28%, now 32%. We're hoping maybe it'll go down, but again, that's a moving target, which is a $1.5 million increase to the overall operating budget. Some factors include our medical loss ratio, which is at 94%, and our prescription loss ratio is at 211%. So those are pretty significant. The state does allow districts to increase the tax levy above the 2% for increases in health benefits. For Highland Park, it would be just over $1.3 million, which would equate to a 6.1% increase in tax levy. The tentative budget includes approximately 719,000 of the 1.3 million. So what we're proposing in a tentative budget, not final yet, but a tentative budget would be to go to the taxpayers for that increase in the health benefit adjustment to help with that potential shortfall, knowing that some of the biggest some of that big information from the healthcare providers and our brokers will be coming out in the coming weeks. So hopefully some more information obviously will help drive our decisions. So with that being said, this year, this coming school year with this tentative budget, if it were to go through as is, the budget would enable us to maintain schools that are fully staffed with qualified personnel. That's a really big important kicker there, least impact on student instruction. It would still allow us to have instructional resources updated and aligned to our standards. This coming year, it's ELA, math, science, and multi-language learners are the ones that the DOE is recommending for some updates. And then it would still allow us to provide courtesy transportation for students on hazardous routes. Unfortunately, what the, and continued. Some other items in the budget that will allow us to do will include some facility improvements. We would still like to get them done, including the high school cupola, which is that beautiful peak outside of the high school. There is, I know that we've been reporting on it, but because it's a historical building built 100 years ago, the gutters are in that cupola and the water is coming down and causing some significant damage to the school. So we need to get that repaired. The replacement of the water service line at the high school, which we might be able to get some additional funding for, to be determined. Replacement of the Bartle fire alarm and strobes, because that is antiquated. The replacement of the Bartle boilers and replacement of exterior lights at all schools. So those are some safety, security, and health risks that we want to address. It would allow us to increase 2 additional security cameras at all schools. This budget will allow us to increase preschool enrollment by 15 students, which is exciting. They'll start over spring break on the construction of that classroom, and it will be able to support a new math program for students in grades K through 5. If our existing funding levels stay as is, the budget will not be able to support the following: the makerspace at the middle school, 4 administrative assistants, 1 nurse. So we'd go to a middle school, high school shared nurse model. We would be down 1 full-time media specialist, 1 fewer Bartle interventionist, going from 4 to 3. And we're already looking for ways to get the high impact tutoring grants. So regardless of what happens, we're going to be exploring that. But we would definitely try to maximize that as much as possible. And then we would go down 1 secondary social studies teacher. So again, all of this was based on an incredible amount of data. Certainly not easy decisions when we had a full list of all the possible things that could have been cut. But we can still provide wonderful services for our students and great instructional programming. Okay, you're up. Talk the money.
As Dr. Suska mentioned, this is a tentative or preliminary budget. The final budget will be presented April 27th, and the board is looking to add an additional discussion meeting for the budget. But this tentative preliminary budget proposes a general tax levy increase of 4.14%. That represents the 2% that you can increase by statute, and also roughly $719,000 of the health care cost adjustment. You'll see also that our state aid did increase 6%. That represents an additional $357,000. Our projected extraordinary aid, this is an estimated amount. We're projecting a decrease of $150,000. The known amount won't come out until July every year, and this is based on an application that the Ed Services Department submits. But historically, over the past few years, the state has funded at a decreased ratio, so the reimbursement is declining. And now that we're projecting more students to come back into district, we project a decrease in that aid.
Oh, Denise, could you just explain what extraordinary aid is?
Extraordinary aid is funding from the state that's received. Our Ed Services or Special Ed Department highlights and goes through the cost of every child that's classified. If they're out of district, the threshold is $55,000. So if we pay over $55,000 for out of district tuition and related services, we can submit that student on the extraordinary aid application. The state then takes those costs and analyzes them and reimburses the district a percentage of that overage. So it's over and beyond the threshold for in-district special ed students and out-of-district special ed students. Our local sources and interest, which includes our interest income, any tuition, our pilot money from the borough, any enterprise activities and refunds of the prior year expenditures are increasing roughly $8,000. And our semi, this is an amount determined by the state. This is a refund from the Medicaid program, is projected at $56,000. So our increase in operating revenue is roughly 4.07%. We're going to utilize capital reserve for those projects that Dr. Seska mentioned, those facility projects, the cupola, the Bartle fire alarm, the exterior lights, the boilers, and the water service line. But that is a decrease over this current year because the Bartle structural repair was a huge, huge hit to our budget. We're proposing to utilize about $250,000 of maintenance reserve, and we're utilizing $131,000 of emergency reserve. That's for the security cameras and for fencing at the high school and middle school to secure the athletic complex. This budget also includes surplus of projected of $924,000. So our total budget or total revenue is $44,717,851. Our proposed expenditures, so you'll see there's a minimal decrease in our regular programs and instruction. But as Dr. Seska mentioned, the special education instruction increases about 11%, and that's due to students coming back in district and needing more services. We had a reclass for bilingual education, so a portion of a member's salary is now being charged to regular ed. So that represents that decrease of negative 14% in bilingual. Our co-curricular athletic and after-school programs are increasing 5%, which represents a phased-in approach to athletic uniforms to revamp the varsity uniforms and additional supplies. This negative 22% for supplemental and at-risk instruction represents the one interventionist at Bartle. And total tuition is decreasing about 3% because we're moving district students back into district. Our attendance and health related is going up a minimal 0.11%. Child study team, a minimal decrease of 1.31%. Improvement in instruction staff training is decreasing 12.9%.
And that's due to the decrease in one media center specialist.
Correct. Our school district central and IT costs are decreasing negative 1%. Our operation and maintenance of plant, including security, is increasing 1.4%. Our transportation services is increasing roughly 3%. And employee benefits are right here representing 22.93%, which is the $1.5 million. Charter schools or the capital outlay, you'll see here, those are all the projects that we are including. And the transfer to charter schools is declining about 10%. We have 18 students, which is a decrease over current year. So our total budget again is 44,717,851. So the tax impact on a 4.14 school tax increase, per the tax assessor in the borough, our average assessed home value is $482,368. For the 26-27 budget, we're projecting the estimated annual tax of $8,342.72, which represents around $343.35 per year on the average homeowner.
So thank you. That is our presentation. And we'll open up the floor to questions from the board. And just speak into the mic. Yep.
Hello?
Yeah.
Okay. Because I just needed some clarity to make sure that I'm understanding. So this is the preliminary budget with or without the tax levy, proposed tax levy, is it with or without making cuts? I don't know if you could break that down for me.
Yeah, so it's with going for an additional increase to the tax levy at 4.1% and the cuts. So in order, we were proposing a $1.5 million shortfall. We got an increase in 6% in state aid, 300,000. So we're left roughly sitting at about a cut of 1.195-ish. And then from there, that's what we're proposing. We're doing a combination of unfortunate cuts and going out for the healthcare adjustment to the taxpayers, but not to the full amount that we can. We did it slightly over to save a couple of more positions, because if not, we'd have to cut more. So it's a combination of some cuts and some extra to the taxpayers, unfortunately, in both of those situations. Dan?
Just to give a sense, so to cover all of those costs, it would be, I think you said 6.1%. Right, and then those 7 or so positions would stay under that.
No, if with this, those positions have to go.
Not with this. With the 6.1.
Oh, if you went for the full adjustment.
Right.
I don't know.
Okay.
Because we just don't have the numbers from the healthcare yet. So that's why I'm saying it's a tentative budget.
But it's all preliminary, right? But so I'm just trying to get a sense for the public of the range of kind of decisions here, right? So 6.1 would roughly cover that increase.
No.
So if we were to use all of the health benefit adjustment, it would increase our budget another roughly 600,000. That's not going to cover all of the positions that were listed.
Okay.
It would cover most of them, but not all of them.
And then so the other end of it would be we increase 2%, and then we have to cover 700,000 or something like that, which would mean further cuts, maybe 7 or so positions, right? So what's being proposed right now is a sort of middle ground between the largest kind of increase and the just the normal kind of 2% increase, which we're not really getting into because we have to find other positions and other money if we didn't increase to the 4.1%.
Correct. Yeah, correct. Oh,
Is it around 4? Is the middle ground, right about 4% tax levy?
Typically it's 2%, right?
Typically.
Last year we had the tax levy incentive aid, so we went up 6.06%. The year prior it was 2.78%. We did take some health benefit adjustment and enrollment adjustment the prior year. But this budget that was presented is a 4.14% increase.
Can you explain, even though I've heard it at the meetings, the ratio issue on the health benefits, the one that's 200%?
Yeah.
If you can explain, I cannot say it in my own words.
So a loss ratio is your medical claims. How do you use them? So for every dollar that we pay of premium, we spend 94 cents on medical. So we're under the premium. Therefore, it's a shorter profit for the insurance company.
But we want to be under.
Right. Under's good.
Under's good.
Prescription loss ratio for every dollar of premium, the insurance company is paying out $2.11. So therein lies part of the reason why we don't have a renewal contract just yet. Our broker has been working feverishly to obtain quotes to get more marketing the district to other health insurance companies, other prescription companies, looking for any avenue to save money. So unfortunately, we just don't have that information just yet.
Last year, our prescription loss ratio was 115%. So that, and our healthcare premiums came in higher last year, but this is a market increase.
Correct. Yes.
So I want to remind everybody that we did, when we left the, good thing we left the state benefit plan, when we did, theirs is at a hovering over the 50% increase versus our 32%. So any school district still in the state plan, yikes. So I'm really grateful that we made the move when we did, and thank you to the Board of Education and the collective bargaining agreements that negotiated that, because at that point we had saved about $1 million that one budget season, which was very helpful for us. And also it was a really good time for us to leave because our loss ratio was a lot less, so we were more marketable. The issue that we're having now because of these numbers, we're just not as marketable now. So, I mean, I know that when you have to make cuts or make decisions and get more money from the taxpayers, I know it's not easy. A little bit of a brighter side, just because I always have to say that, is, good thing we left when we did, because this could be considerably much worse. But I think sometimes it hits smaller districts a little bit harder, but but at that point we were very marketable. And now our problem is that we're not as marketable, really in particular because of that prescription loss ratio is really crushing us right now.
To follow on, just to close the loop on the prescription loss ratio. So I understand what that means. And then it goes, so the insurance company pays more. We don't necessarily pay that. That is just what they use in their calculation for projection to make us less marketable.
Correct.
Okay.
And can you explain, please, the reason for the 1.5 million increase in the healthcare costs, just so that everybody's sort of understands the context of that, if we can discuss it?
So I will say that it is a very sensitive situation. So I'll try to say it as delicately as possible. I don't think that anybody that put Chapter 44 into place, the law around healthcare benefits for public employees in school districts, anticipated a miracle weight loss drug to be covered by insurance. And so what we're finding is that we have some, we call them belly buttons. So it's not necessarily staff, but it could be people insured by staff that are partaking in some GLP-1s, and that's really unfortunately driving the cost.
And I think people should be aware that this is not a problem that is specific to our town. This is affecting health plans across the country.
Correct.
And I just want to clarify what Chapter 44 means. It's a law, a New Jersey state law that sets school employee healthcare contributions as at a percentage of salary, not a percentage of premium. So every time there is a increase in healthcare premiums, that increase is borne entirely by the district. That law sunsets at the end of next year. But so that's why, I mean, this would be a problem no matter what, with these kinds of dramatic increases in healthcare premiums, but it shifted entirely onto the district.
This is something that we're seeing in all of the towns right now. Like everybody's doing their budget meetings last week or this week, and the headlines all over the place are these shortfalls due to the increase in healthcare costs. So, we're a little bit ahead because we did pull out of the state plan. However, it's something that is unfortunately out of our control. I did have a question. So in regard to the reduction in staff, how do we anticipate that, you know, if we're anticipating potentially cutting 4 assistant administrative assistants and 1 nurse, how are their workloads going to be handled by the remaining staff in order to not overwhelm those that are remaining?
Yeah, so we're going to move registration out of each main office to a more centralized registration within the technology department. So we already have a staff member in there that will be able to handle that load. So, and it actually makes sense from a student data perspective. So we would be able to move central to a more centralized central registration, which I think would be beneficial for the school district regardless, just so that there's a one-stop shop for registration versus going to multiple different schools. So we'd be able to handle the workload there. In terms of some of the other work that would have to happen, we'd still have to problem solve around that, just in terms of like when the secretary in the building takes their break, making sure that that is covered. So, but those are sort of easy problems to solve around this. And the other one was nurse, thank you. So we looked at the data and it seems like predominantly the majority of students, at least at the high school and really at the middle school, are using the nursing facility for bathroom use when we reviewed the data. So that is important. But we're trying to look to see if it's like particularly heavy hitters, is it medical needs? What we're finding out as we dig through the data, it's not necessarily for medical needs. So we are thinking about a more centralized location for the nurse's office. And then from there, I think we'll be able to better handle a combined nurse between it, given the data. If we kind of account for that, moving that out, because there's plenty of other bathrooms in the middle and high school that are available. Those physical locations of those bathrooms would still be there. Just having a staff member open it or something like that. So it's not that we're taking away any bathroom, but it seems to be a lot of students are going there and they're spending a significant amount of time in the bathroom in the nurse's office as well, which cuts into instructional time. So we're trying to problem solve around that a little bit. Many years ago when I did the research, we were in a one nurse model. And then when we did the research around the county, most schools that are a combined size of our middle and high school have one nurse. Some districts are going down to 1 nurse for a district. We don't want to do that. That would not be okay. But we did do a little bit of research to make sure that we were kind of in line with what other districts were doing for the size of a combined, since the schools are attached, it made a little bit more sense in looking at our data. So I don't think we should have any issues operating around a shared nurse. In addition, Dr. Donovan and Ms. Brady had talked about where we could station staff during their duty to make sure, because we don't want middle school kids roaming around the halls into the high school. So we would have station duties to make sure that students get to where they need to go and back in a timely manner. So we've already thought about that.
And to follow up on that, I mean, one of my concerns with going down to 1 nurse is, the school nurses in the middle and high school also deal with athletic physicals. Would that single nurse still be responsible for that, or would that work get shifted?
So believe it or not, actually, Dr. Mark is sitting right by me here, but when Dr. Morlero started with us and he reviewed our contract with Rutgers Behavioral Health and Dr. Walmack's office. So Dr. Walmack is our team physician, our school physician. We were underutilizing his contractual services for physicals. We were doing a lot of the work ourselves here and giving that work to the nurses. And we were underutilizing that contract. So when we met with Dr. Womack, when Dr. M started with us, Dr. Womack said, yeah, this is what I can do. I can come here, bring them there. Like, he has a whole way of operating. So actually the work will shift to Dr. Womack's office for health physicals. So it's a little bit of record keeping on our end, but the nurses do get some money over the summer, some hours. They get some hours over the summer to do that sort of more data entry work. But the majority of the work has actually shifted to Dr. Morlero and Dr. Womack.
Two questions. By secondary social studies teacher, that's meant a social studies teacher at the high school?
It's
Or-
so as our numbers turned out, we probably could go down one social studies teacher at the high school, but it would be unfortunately, it would be the last person in a RIF, in a reduction in force, is the last one out. So I mean, I'm not going to speak to personnel in public, but that's typically what happens. So what would happen is we just have to shift after there's a reduction in force of a staff member, we'd have to shift some of the people around. And that actually comes with, we moved Mr. Gervin back into the classroom full-time. So that has shifted the numbers for our students taking social studies classes, so we can actually go down a social studies teacher.
So we sort of added one a little earlier this year.
So we added one essentially this year, so we could actually go down one next year.
Bartle interventionist going from 4 to 3. We've seen such good things happen because we're interventionists. I think there's more about that maybe later on tonight. If there's anywhere that I feel like the justification of bringing in more revenue would come, it would be from keeping these interventionists where they are, because, and I understand people are upset about, justifiably, given the affordability crisis, paying more government. We also hear a lot of in the community about wanting extra tutoring, wanting students to, be caught before they struggle and doing better, and people are improving the numbers, test scores going up. I think that's where understanding would come from.
Yeah, and we've closely reviewed that data as well. And the data actually shows that we could probably go to a 3-person model with one person at Bartle being fully ELA, one person providing intervention fully for math, and one that actually can do both and service both math and ELA students. So, honestly, what we're seeing in our pilot for the math program, which I'm sure Dr. Beatty will talk about, is that I think where we land is going to be such a great spot. The preschool has been a tremendous asset in closing some gaps. We're actually seeing a lot less. In fact, last year we went down one ELA interventionist at Irving without impact because preschool is doing so phenomenal that we're actually seeing those gaps start to fill. So I'm really hopeful with a more rigorous math program that the same thing will happen. And the math numbers at Bartle didn't really justify needing 4. But with that being said, is all of those are a priority. So that list that I presented to you are a priority. And by the way, on the presentation, they're not in any particular order. It was just how my brain was working when I put them in there. But what my recommendation is going to be after is that, in the coming weeks, depending on where we land with our health benefits, is we have some conversations around if we're going to add positions back in and not cut it on the final nth hour for the April presentation, the April final board hearing, is prioritizing them, right? What if we had to make a list and say, we're able to find, $200,000-$300,000, what are we saving on this list? So for the board, what they've seen is a cost for each of these. And so we plug it into a formula and say, okay, if you've got 300,000, make it work, pick and choose here from this list kind of thing. So what we would do is I would make that recommendation to prioritize, obviously the ones that would impact students the most would be added back in certainly as a possibility. So that's important too.
On a more positive note, I like seeing the transfer of charter schools go down. That's nice.
Yes.
That's just not
like that
guaranteed.
too.
Unfortunately, that's not guaranteed because in November, some students may transfer, and in November we get revised numbers. But for right now, it's lower.
Take the win, Mr. Rosa, take the win.
Has there been any information from the Department of Education on the high impact tutoring grants? Because I know that in the governor's proposed budget, there's supposed to be 15 million extra dollars specifically for that purpose.
Yep,
although it's still proposed. Right?
We're monitoring it closely. Those come out usually. The DOE sends out broadcasts to us weekly. And then we disseminate that information, and grants definitely go out as a first ticket item that comes out of my office. Ms. O'Donnell does a phenomenal job of pushing that out. The minute we get any grant information, it goes to every staff, and Michelle is on it and trying to monitor it very closely for us. Oh, Monique? Monique?
Hi, I'm here.
Hi, Monique. How are you?
Good, thank you. Sorry I can't be there in person with you all. I just wanted to first highlight the positive that you did as well, Dr. Susko, in your presentation on us still being able to increase our preschool enrollment by 15 students. That's just great to hear. And I did want to ask if you wouldn't mind just reviewing the plan for the 2 additional security cameras at each of the schools.
Sure, go ahead.
So it's based on the principal's needs and wants. So we just budget for 2 per location, and then John Flanagan will work with the principals to determine the high impact hallways, things that are not in view, maybe the playground. It could be a variety of things, but the locations have not been determined right now.
Okay, but each school administrator requested 2 additional security cameras. Is that correct? Or is this just?
Yes. Mhm.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Okay, seeing no other questions, that concludes my report.
Okay, so now we are moving to the first public comment period of the night. The Highland Park Board of Education welcomes public participation and has reserved this time for your comments. Is there, how many do we have online? Anybody raising their hand? Okay, going once? Going twice? Okay, we will have another public comment section following committee reports. So now we move on to board committee reports. Dan?
Curriculum instruction met on March 12th. First, a brief update about the math adoption. This is moving forward. Last week, people visited from both Clear Math and Eureka Math, which I think it's E squared. Is that right? EM squared. We got positive feedback that the teachers were following the curriculum with fidelity. Everyone will be done with the unit prior to spring break. The week before spring break, teachers will meet to complete their rubric. There will also be a survey sent out to parents to get feedback on their perceptions of the on piloting the curricula. So we should have more of a sense for how the teachers are viewing the curricula, how students are viewing the curricula, how parents are viewing the curricula right after spring break. And yeah, curriculum instruction will look at that and at some point make a recommendation kind of moving forward based on how all that went. We also talked about benchmark data. And last time I went through detailed percentages on this. I'm going to summarize a little bit more. But if folks have questions, then please ask. For ELA benchmarks, the percentages are the percentage of students that were at or above grade level. So in Irving, K1 students were 51% at or above grade level, compared to this same time period for last year. Those numbers were 48 to 50%. So about the same, maybe a touch higher. At Bartle, students range from 48 to 63% based on grade level this year, and last year was 49 to 65%. So pretty much on par there as well. And they have been using the same assessments for a few years. So those are the same assessments. So they're pretty comparable. In math, at Irving, 49 to 52% of students. For math, we look at the percentage of students who scored 60% or higher on the assessment. I think that's supposed to be comparable to at or above grade level on their benchmark assessment. And the benchmark assessment they're using for kinder through 5th grade
Ooh, I did skip something. I'll go back to ELA in a second. Um, um, that's supposed to be, I think, roughly equivalent to at or above grade level. So just think in math, this percentage of students is doing 60% or above. So Irving, 49 to 52% of kinder and first grade students were at or above or at that 60% threshold. Last year, that was 51 to 75%, particularly because first grade scored pretty high for this for that benchmark period. At Bartle, last year was the first year they started using Envision, so they used that again. And the numbers have a huge range at Bartle. So I'll say something about that. But at Bartle, the percentage of students, depending on grade level, were from 9 to 62%. Last year, that was 6 to 33%. Second grade performed much better. Those were the second graders who performed much better in first grade. So that's somewhat notable. I think so then you think about 9%. So every grade actually improved a few percent. That 6% went to 9%. I think 10% went to 18%. So those numbers went up a little bit after the first year they took it, but some of those numbers, particularly kind of third through fifth, are pretty low. And I think in some ways that's we've seen that on some of the state tests as well. In middle school, students were at or above 45 to 69%, with eighth grade being the lowest. Those numbers were 40 to 46% for the same time period last year. So that means seventh and eighth grade actually showed some good increases. Wait a second. That's what I skipped for ELA. Those are ELA numbers. Okay, I'm going to restart. For ELA, I didn't do middle school, and students were at or above grade level from 45 to 69%, with eighth grade still being a little bit lower. Those numbers were 40 to 46% a year ago. So you're actually seeing an increase in seventh and eighth grade in particular. At the middle school in math, 75 to 85% of students were at that threshold. Those numbers were 61 to 85 for the same period. So actually in math, eighth graders showed marked improvement from last year. So generally, the numbers seem to improve. There were some grade levels that kind of maintained or whatnot, but we didn't see too many drops. And depending on the content, this is sometimes the second year. Some of those students have seen those assessments. In ELA, it's been a little bit longer, and so we have more of a sense of the trend. We also talked about policies. I think you're going to hear some of this in equity and excellence too. We talked about the resource materials. We've talked about this before. We were leaving in some value statements in the policy that appeared both in the policy and the regulation, and board members, I think, generally wanted to keep it in both spots to make clear what our values are. There were also some questions in a prior board meeting about the composition of the committee, because it was something like 7 or more people anytime a book was reviewed. And that seemed a little bit excessive, but that is required by law. And so we can't change that. So something we were looking at changing the library material policy and regulation, we actually can't. So that's staying as is. We are approving some shifts in chaperones for the field trips. Some of these we talked about. We've talked about before, but students are going to Highland Park Municipal Building to learn about local government. Seventh grade trip is going to medieval times. DECA is going to Atlanta. And there's a number of other kind of exciting field trips to the Liberty Science Center, going to DC to experience Asian culture and so forth. So we are approving some of those. We also had an extended conversation about technology as we're trying to sort of assess technology use, particularly on the Chromebooks. And we're trying to get a sense for what, the level of data we have, how we can look at it, what we can't see. And so part of this is about filtering websites. And it's particularly hard because the proxies are consistently changed. And so, for example, someone can create a proxy that's cool math games, which sounds very educational. Turns out that Fortnite is hidden in cool math games. And so then we use a software called LineWise, which learns essentially from district supporting these proxies and websites. So then the more districts that use this, the more it helps other districts. As we report and whatnot. So as one district blocks it, then it actually is updated in our system as well. But that's just to give a sense for as these proxies are kind of created, and then maybe Fortnite or some other application is kind of added in, then you have to kind of block that. At the same time, sometimes when we block things, unintentionally block websites that are actually educational, and so then teachers have to request them to not be blocked. So it's a difficult thing to manage. We did look at the top websites that are actually used within a district, and YouTube, Google Docs, JavaScript, Google Search, Google, and Google Play were the most common ones. The first three, YouTube, Google Docs, and JavaScript, account for 80% of websites used in the district. However, we don't have data on when those are being accessed. So we can't tell whether they're being accessed during school hours, at home, and so forth.
Dan, just really quick on that. To note, that's not just the student use, that's administrator use too.
Right, the entire district use, right. So we did spend some time looking over possible data to examine what we can get and how much work that would be. Just looking over middle school for 1 month included 77 million instances of website access, and that is the entire district, not just student use, to Sarah's point. So we discussed what specific data we want to look at and what questions we actually want answered, and decided that we actually needed another meeting to kind of narrow that down before we come back to administrators with some more focused kind of asks, because we're asking for there's a lot of data, not all of it's going to necessarily be useful to our cause, and so we have to figure out how to make it, I think, doable and manageable. So the committee will be meeting in the future to kind of discuss this and figure out how to narrow that down, given a brief look at some data during the meeting. So that's something to kind of look for coming up. We also discuss chaperone checks. I think Equity and Excellence provide a little more detail in their report on TV tests and background checks, but we briefly discussed that as well. So I'll leave it to them to go a little deeper. I think I got it right. And then you can answer. All right. Approval of field trip requests. We have approval of HIV reports. There are 2 confirmed cases. Approval of the revised district calendar. Approval of sidebar agreement. This is for a pilot program around teacher evaluation. Number 5 is an update to the Danielson teacher rubric that would be used in that evaluation. Approval of the Schedule B interscholastic athletic schedule for middle and high school. Approval of National Cheerleaders Association 2-day camp for high school. Approval of an agreement with Seton Hall. Approval of summer teaching and reinforcement. This is the STAR program. And approval of home instruction for 3 students. And finally, approval of a revised job description for general maintenance worker. Any questions?
A question. And you may have said this before, I probably forgot. But in terms of the math pilot, are they looking for any student voice in the decision making? Are they going to ask the students that participated in the appropriate, I think, grade levels, like maybe 4 and 5, how they felt about the curriculum? Because they are able to compare it to what they had, originally, to see if they have any feedback.
I believe that was part of the data being collected, was to actually gather some data from students, some from teachers, some from parents, and to put that all together, right? And there's rubrics out there too, so it's not just kind of like, which often happens with curricula, like, oh, the look at this one is so organized and everything, and then like, yeah, the content is not the best. So sometimes you have the publisher with the most money kind of winning the battle. So I think the idea is to actually really try to collect this and hold to the rubric across teachers, students, and parents to gather all that feedback.
Awesome, because my kid actually has some opinions about it. That's kind of a surprise.
Hold on.
I was like, hold on, I can say these things, but I want to make sure you have a chance to also. And then I just want to make a comment, especially with you reading the upcoming trips and the, acknowledging all of the wonderful things that our student rep shared about student achievements, that I'm so happy that we were able to preserve those out of state trips, because now we have like 30 students that are going to be able to go on something that is extraordinary. So I just want to acknowledge, and thank you for keeping that opportunity and working something out.
So I did have a question about the job description. If there's any particular reason why it has to be a 4-year requirement of having had 4 years experience, and if that wouldn't box out other candidates who would be just as qualified or able to fill that same position.
Yeah. I'm not sure that was the recommendation of the facilities director. We lost Willie Roman, retired this past December, and he had a plethora of knowledge, and there was a loss of knowledge. So maybe it's just bridging that gap in the needs of the district.
I have a question. What is JavaScript? What is that? What is that suffix? I mean,
I think it's computer code. Yeah, it's like website.
so it could be anything.
No, it's like code to actually create web pages and stuff. So it's people who are going in and either creating or editing kind of web pages or a construction of.
And it's used a lot for games, actually, like coding for games.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, this voice from nowhere. So I just don't know. I've raised a virtual hand, but nobody knows.
All right. So 80% of web traffic goes to YouTube. Google Docs, I know, is used in Google Classroom by teachers. And then JavaScript, which is a coding language, often used for games. Maybe we could at least get it within that 80%. Is like YouTube like 60% or something? But
well, YouTube is the most.
Is the top, right? So
yeah, I think the thing about that too is because it includes non-students, it's not interpretable at this point. And so what we discussed was that we really need to figure out a way to filter it, to make it meaningful, to really understand, what the students are using, what's being blocked, what's not being blocked. And so I would say at this point, we don't know enough.
Yeah, if I could just jump in. So the data is a lot for that. And I think it's really important to get at, like, almost granular, like, what is it that is what you really want to see, so that we can parse out the data. So the Mr. Lubis and his team have been a nonstop on the calls with LimeWise to talk about ways that we can better get the data so that it's more meaningful. Because when it was presented at 77 million points, what do you want to see? The things that are blocked, the things that are unblocked, and then what is that going to tell you, right? Like, what is your end goal? What is it that you want to see from the data, so that we can decide if we can even get to that point or not. So one of the things that after about an hour extensive call with them, They were able to provide us some more reports. So here's just an example that might be what you want or might not be what you want, but there's other. We're trying to get access to as many reports as possible. So this one's called the Digital Distraction Report. The purpose of this digital distraction report is to highlight students who are exhibiting online behaviors that may indicate that they are not focused on their learning. The report allows the user to select a specific peer group and date range for comparison and identify students who are exhibiting these behaviors significantly more than their peer group. Higher distraction ratings indicate that the student is demonstrating concerning behaviors in multiple categories of distracting indicators. So of course I said, well, what's the bar? Like what's the norm for that? So we don't really know. So a lot of these data, like these reports, we're just trying to pull and look at. So the tech department is hearing you. We have these conversations quite frequently to try to figure out what is it that we want to see. And if it's, how long they're on something, I'm not sure that we can get that way, but we can definitely find something that might indicate that they're not focused on their learning by use. We're trying to figure out if we can parse the data out by time for students. That is really hard too. If we look at it saying, okay, are we only looking at what they're accessing from 3 o'clock to 3 p.m. till 7 a.m. or 8 a.m. or something like that? Is like that a data set we want to look at? Do you want to see what it is being blocked or what they are accessing? I'm not sure if they access a YouTube. I don't know if you'll see how long they'll be able to stay on that, right? So there's a lot of data that can be there. What I would like the board to do is really think about what's the end goal? What is it that you want to know so that we can pull the right data set for you, because there's a lot of data there. And I think it's hard if I just go saying, I just need a report. And when I pull a report of 77 million cells, Excel can't even handle that. Our Excel that we have can't even handle that. So we need to trim it back a little bit so that we can even pull a report that's meaningful for you. So that was just one example that that LimeWise said, maybe this report, we just built this report. Do you want to try this report? Tell us what you want. We'll help you build a report. So they're willing to work with us. We just need to know what it is that y'all want to see. So that was why I was encouraging the curriculum instruction committee to maybe really have like a little side conversation to unpack what it is that they want to see so that we can get that data.
And currently we can't parse out, like, we're just basically looking at time. You can't tell if it's like academic YouTube and just scrolling.
I mean, the way I read it, it's very hard for me to decipher. I mean, unless I go to each URL and now look at it. And I can do that. Not sure that's the most effective use of my time, but I can certainly do that because that's what it is, right? It comes out in an Excel spreadsheet and it'll say YouTube 5, 6, 7, 8, ZQP. And now I would have to copy and paste that in and say, what is that? Right. And it could be an educational video, by the way, right? But if you've ever been on YouTube, one video ends and guess what? Another one starts. And I'm not sure with that data if it tells me the next. Is that the same URL? Is that now a different URL because a new video started? Like all of those things are so nuanced that I don't know. So what I don't want is present data that then is really misleading because it doesn't capture what it is we want to see either. So everything is so nuanced with it. I want to know, I just really want to know what is it, the end goal that you want to see so that we can work backwards from there and try to collect data around that.
We could cut it back so you don't have to look at like 10 million websites.
Perfect. That's better than 77. Thank you.
Sure, we can narrow it down that much.
Are you requesting and are you comfortable with, for instance, the CNI committee meeting or discussing things, prior to the next official CNI meeting? That's okay.
That would be desirable, just so that we don't spend our time in that meeting because there's so much other, especially with the math pilot and other things that we have to talk about. Not that I definitely don't mind spending 2 hours talking about this, but out of respect to everybody's time, I think if we just come with some sort of ideas, that way then I can jot the notes down, I can go back to the team, we can get that data. That way it gives me a month then to be able to present it to y'all in a meaningful way versus a spreadsheet of 77 million data points and you're like, I don't know what I'm looking at. Let's do some pivot tables. What is it that you want to see around this? What are we pivoting? So I think that's, if we could decide what we want, then I can go back to the team, collect it, and be able to present it to you in a meaningful way. Yeah.
Okay, so now we can move on to equity and excellence.
Okay. pull up my window here. Okay, so equity and excellence met. Can you all hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. Equity and excellence met on March 11th, and we went over the same policies that curriculum instruction discussed around first the school chief administrator and actually, I'm sorry, Dan, you may not have mentioned that in your CIA notes, CNI notes, but there was discussion around or questioning around the language that stated that the superintendent shall devote themselves exclusively to the duties of the office. Dr. Suska did check with our counsel on that, and the idea behind that language was really just to limit the potential for a conflict of interest created by the superintendent having involvement in outside employment that could, obviously interfere with their work as acting on behalf of the best interest, I should say, of the district and board. But bottom line is there's no existing state policy or law requiring this language, so the decision was made to remove it since we didn't have to have it in the policy. So that policy was revised accordingly. Let's see. The resource materials policy is, I believe what Dan said, CNI discussed as well. Minor language updates there, no major changes. The original language around the resources stays in the policy and has been added to regulation, as Dan mentioned. What else? Nothing new to add from our discussion on the 2535 library material policy either. Yeah, I think Dan pretty much covered everything we talked about around those policies as well. And again, in terms of the appointment of a review committee, that discussion around the excessive number of people resulted in the clarification or the information from our attorney on the regulation around that. So, of course, that committee has to stay in place. So moving on, we also talked about background checks for parent volunteers, and we are going to be having some follow-up discussion around this, but what we did discuss was right now we know the board does not have to require criminal background checks for persons in regular contact with students, volunteering regularly with students. We do ask for a background check, and the person, if we do ask for a background check, the person must be reimbursed. We talked about the TBI requirement not being recommended. Again, as we consider how to approach background checks for different parent volunteers. Dr. Suska is going to follow up with the leadership team just to think about how to define what is a regular contact volunteer, such as volunteer coaches, recurring volunteers, overnight trip volunteers, et cetera. How do we kind of define and categorize those volunteers separately from, let's say, sort of one-off volunteers? So she's going to share some draft language around that, those terms with the committee at our next meeting, because we just found that in our discussion, it was really important to understand or to define how we're categorizing the volunteers and using that to help determine the type of checks, background checks that would be needed, and which volunteer roles would require or should require the criminal background checks. So that is a discussion that is to be continued. We also looked at the ALP, our Advanced Learning Program enrollment data that Dr. Suska pulled together for over the last several years from 2022 to now. So I'm just going to open that window up in 1 second. So what we looked at was the enrollment data for 4th and 5th grade students starting in the 2022-2023 year and ending in 2025-2026 year. And what we noticed was that there was a significant drop in students over that entire period. So, for example, in the 2022-2023 school year, there were 49 students that were tested. And that number in 2025 to 2026 school year, this school year, is 39. There was a slight bump between the 2022-2023 school year and the 2023-2024 school year. So it went from 49 to 53. But from that point on, from 2024 to 2026, the numbers decreased. So we talked about sort of the concerns around under promotion perhaps of the program and possibly contributing to the drop in student testing numbers. Some committee members who have students in that age range talked about perhaps some of the communications needing more descriptive information about the program as opposed to just the name or title of the program, just to help ensure that all the parents are aware of what this program entails, its purpose, and the process, the testing process. Dr. Seska will be reporting back with more information on how information about the program was shared with the parents. She just didn't have that available at the time. We also talked about the decision to stop testing all students for the enrichment component and the role that change could have played in the enrollment number drop. So Dr. Seska did report that that decision was prompted by the fact that some students were found to have experienced anxiety around the testing process. So administration decided to remove that requirement. But she will be reporting back to the committee on, exactly when students stop being tested for the program, to see again if there's any correlation between that and the numbers of enrollment, the number of the students enrolled. We also looked at the racial disparities that were also quite glaring in the numbers. So let's see, for example, over all the years, no, actually the first 3 years, so from 2022 to 2025, I believe, there were, from 2022 to 2024, there were more white students than all the other racial groups enrolled. There was also only one Black student across all years in that was tested into the program. Or I'm sorry, that was actually our participant in the program. Students with disabilities dropped from 6 to 1. So 6 in 2022-2023 school year, down to just 1 student in 2025 to 26. Interestingly enough, our economically disadvantaged students were the only group to have a significant increase between 2022 to 2026. So in 2022, there were 3 economically disadvantaged students, and in 2025-2026, that number was 11. So, and again, that was the only category that saw that significant increase over all the years. But again, these are some sort of initial takeaways from the data, and certainly, areas of concern around the disparities, typical disparities that we see with underrepresented groups. So we will be discussing the program more as Dr. Seska reports back with more information from administration on communications around the program, and of course the testing, decision to stop the testing. We also discussed the importance of differentiation in all the classrooms, and how that can help support obviously all students more, and perhaps sort of with the lift all boats, all tides approach to our educational enrichment. And what Dr. Seska talked about was that there is an understanding that differentiation is a challenge, and it does require tools for teachers to be successful, and the adoption of resources. So this is something that, again, is just an ongoing work in progress for administration, and just having the resources and tools for teachers to support them in this work. But it does continue to be an area of concern. Let's see, we briefly looked at some of the responses to the rigor survey that was conducted. And I know Dr. Seska will be doing a full presentation on that data in May. So I'm not going to get into details there, but generally what we looked at was just sort of the overall viewpoints from the students and parents. And overall, the majority of the students expressed positive views around the extent to which they felt like they were stimulated and challenged by their schoolwork and their feelings around their perspectives around their what they felt that their teachers felt about them, and overall, again, positive responses there. For the parents, mostly favorable views, but there certainly were concerns around increasing the need for increased academic rigor and mastery of expectations. There was also let's see, concerns around the need for improvement in parent communication around the program. But overall, another positive takeaway from this study was that students and parents seem to have sort of a shared understanding of rigor. So I know this term we hear a lot, but just to know that there is this shared and correct understanding that rigor focuses on sort of deeper learning, not just more work. So that was another takeaway from the survey. But again, this is just a very quick overview, and we look forward to the full breakdown of those results in May, I believe. Then we looked at our ISS and OSS data for February. Again, total incidents continued to trend down, especially really across the board. And we're also just working better at keeping kids in school in their learning environment. At Bartle, there were a total of 15 total incidents involving 12 students, 1 ISS and 1 OSS, I believe. Yeah, I don't know why there's a 4 there, but I believe it's 1 ISS and 1 OSS. Middle school, there were 19 total of incidents, 18 total students, 3 ISS and 1 OSS. And at the high school, higher number tick up there, 52 total incidents. And that did have to do with the kind of group discipline incident that occurred there. But 3 ISS and 1 OSS suspensions at the high school level. So again, we just had to at least celebrate the fact that there continues to be a trend downward, and we're seeing less students getting out of school suspension and keeping our students in school, even if they have to be pulled out for a period of time in our RISE program. They're still receiving an education when they're in that program. And that is it for my notes. Any questions?
Yeah, I actually have a question for Christina on the chaperone policy. So it's not actually a board policy, correct?
Correct.
So what is the current status? What's going on with that?
So we actually met today to review some of this feedback, and we're working on sort of putting it into language in a document, share it with the team for some sort of input, and then we can push it out back to committee.
We're probably going to follow up with the question.
Well, okay, so let me rephrase it. So there is policy around it,
Yeah.
but we have to parse it out by group because we have volunteers for many different things. So, for example, what we have to determine is what defines our volunteers is the kicker. So, is it to what Monique was saying? Is it we have volunteers that coach? We have volunteers that go on overnight trips. We have volunteers that come in to do book fair. We have volunteers that come in to read to kids. So we have all of these different pockets of volunteers, but those things are not articulated clearly on what determines what would need like a longer term exposure with our students. So what I was saying was example would be if we have parent volunteers sleeping over at Camp Mason, for example, my recommendation is that would warrant maybe a little bit more of an extensive check versus people that are coming in to maybe just volunteer to do the book fair, during hours where there's, a staff member in the room with them or something like that. So those are the nuanced things that we are just trying to decipher.
The question I think that folks have for the current field trips, the original policy, or at least not rules, were including the TB and the background check.
Correct.
And the question is that effective immediately? Because I think there's just some confusion amongst the parents.
Yeah, because I don't know how, but it ended up circulating on Facebook. I don't know how it got there. I did not put it there. So we will get clarification around that.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
Yes.
Sooner, so.
Yeah, as soon as so we have some options. I mean, I could push out, or we could just do it electronically as long as everyone's good with what I'm presenting, or do we want to wait till next month till I review it with committee?
I think that the bigger question is just some parents do believe right now that for the field trips, they don't need the TB and the background check. So if that's effective immediately.
I will put something out as soon as possible.
Yeah, that does all for that one.
Yep.
I think, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have a question or a comment. I think my impression is you've definitely been seeing pretty steady declines in disciplinary incidents, behavioral stuff, which is great to see. Have you, Dr. Suska, have a sense, even sort of anecdotally, to what extent that's related to the cell phone policy?
At the middle school, probably for sure. Probably a big amount of that probably is. Just even with the Smart Pass alone, we're seeing less students out during what we call unstructured time, which is where we had a lot of our issues. So they're not leaving the classroom as much, therefore not interacting with each other during unstructured time as much. So at the middle school, definitely for sure. I think that's a big reason. I think you're seeing a good culture shift even around that at the high school a little bit. So I'm sure that is definitely part and parcel to it. I will say also our staff that are being trained and working every month on the nurtured heart approach, seeing some of that active recognition happening in the classroom and inner wealth building with students has been a tremendous asset as well. You'll see our goals coming soon. So that'll be really exciting in the spring as well. So I think there's a combination of stuff, but the cell phone definitely was a big player in that for sure.
I just wanted to comment on two things. I think one, the employment of a chief school administrator, the issue about a superintendent not being able to kind of contract out or do different things. If we did limit that, that would put us as a school district in a very difficult spot getting a chief administrator. Most of our past administrators have taught at Rutgers. They couldn't do that. That I think puts them in a good position. And so, I don't know if the public kind of necessarily thinks about that, and it's a limit conflicts of interest, but it also limits their kind of impact around, right? In even relationships across districts and with different universities and whatnot. So if we were to put that language in, I think it would severely kind of restrict that position in our district, which would make it harder to hire and that's not, I don't think, anything we really want to do. And the other piece around the ALP data, I think it was like 2 years ago, we actually really tried to clarify some of the communication with parents. And so it also looks like about 2 years ago, we saw a drop. And so it's just concerning to me that kind of intentional kind of move to kind of communicate seems to have impacted that program. And so, yeah, it just makes me think we need to look at that again, which it sounds like.
I agree.
Yeah.
I remember having that conversation 2 years ago, and one of the things that we had proposed was that at back to school night, that there be presentations on ALP, but unfortunately, I shouldn't say unfortunately, the decision was made at Bartle to have these more open house sort of open school nights. So there were no formal presentations. So if there were no formal presentations, then I don't think anything was delivered out. So that I think may have stifled some opportunity for parents learning about the program. I do remember newsletters about ALP going out at some point. And I don't know if any have gone out recently. So I think, yeah, definitely something to look at and see kind of like how we intended to communicate, maybe rethinking the plan.
Thank you. Any more questions? Comments? we will certainly be talking about ALP in our next meeting.
Okay, we can move on to finance and facilities.
Right. So finance and facilities met March 17th. We looked at the budget, the preliminary budget presentation. So I'm not going to, go over all of that again. We also looked at the PEA, which is the preschool budget. So that the preschool budget is a separate budget. So we did look at that as well. And, as Dr. Siska mentioned, we are going to have 15 more seats in pre-K, which the construction component of that is in our main budget. The rest of pre-K has its own budget, which fortunately, because we did opt in to pre-K when it was originally offered, is very well funded by our state. And so we are very, very fortunate for that. For some facilities items, you'll see on some of the agenda items, there is the purchase of a storage unit for Bartle to hold outdoor equipment, and that is due to the demolition of a staircase that had a closet underneath where all of that was stored. So now we have to find a new storage space, so we're purchasing that. Installation of door alarms and key switches to 3 exterior doors at Irving. That addresses concerns from Irving about some alarm updates that actually led to alarms not going off when doors were open. So from the inside, so now they have fixed that and the alarms will go off. There's an additional change order to permanently wire 15 ventilators, unit ventilators, and those were wired temporarily due to construction and now will be wired permanently. And there are also forthcoming change orders for the business office to be, discussed. We also looked at the same chief school administrator policy, and we agree with everything that everybody else said. Some informational items, our negative lunch balance now sits at $55,158.21. Some facility project updates. The baseball field, we had previously reported, I think twice now, that we were waiting for an updated quote from a landscaper. So we've decided to contract out to separate vendors for some landscaping jobs in order to get that done. There's also some updates on the Bartle structural repair continues to be ongoing. The Bartle toilet room renovation is almost done, 99%. And some of our board members saw the bathroom and can attest to how beautiful it is. So we were very, very pleased. The preschool classroom renovation that we had discussed, that construction is going to begin on Friday. And then over the spring break, contractors will install a temporary wall to split the cafeteria into 2 rooms. So work can continue on in the room that's going to become a classroom while the rest of the cafeteria remains untouched. And then we also touched base on the HPEF Environmental Sustainability Project. So district had a meeting with all stakeholders to discuss a room at the high school being converted into a makerspace and a room at the middle school being converted into an environmental sustainability center. That proposal is still a work in progress. Champions also sent an update. There are 289 students currently enrolled, with 32 students receiving subsidies. And they are also going to be running spring break programs and a summer program. So in addition to our town program, we are going to also have the Champions run a summer program, and the town gave their blessing. So all is good there. All right, I'm going to move on to the finance and facilities agenda items. Numbers 1 through 6 are part of that tentative budget. So number 1 is the authorization to adopt the tentative budget for the fiscal year of 2026 to 2027. Number 2 is that adjustment for healthcare costs, and that's the increased cost in health benefits in the amount of $718,000. $1,700. Oh my goodness, 708. Never mind, the number that's listed, about $718,000. And so those additional funds will be used to pay the additional increases in health benefit premiums. Number 3 is the approval to withdraw capital reserve. And that is for all of those facility items that Denise, Mr. Rosa presented during the budget presentation. Number 4 is the approval of maintenance reserve withdrawal, again, to support some of the items that were outlined in the budget presentation. Number 5 is also emergency reserve withdrawal. Again, and that's for the addition of the security cameras at the high school and middle school and the fencing around the athletic complex. And number 6, in regard to the budget, is approval of travel and related expense reimbursement for next school year. Number 7 is approval of that preschool budget plan. Number 8 is the approval of our bill list. Number 9 is our treasurer's report. Number 10 is the board secretary's report. Number 11 is the Board of Ed certifications, that our monthly finance report is all good. We have sufficient funds able to meet the district's financial obligations for the remainder of the year. Number 12 is budget transfers. Number 13 is the approval of travel and related expense reports for this current school year. Number 14 is the approval of contractors for professional services and related services. You can see we have the Art of Education University coming in. Tova Friedman came for a Holocaust survivor presentation at the middle school. We have Lead Universe coming for an assembly at the middle school. The Brain Injury Alliance for New Jersey for concussion safety. Very important. And Dr. Maurice Blanc for a parent engagement group. Number 15 is the approval of bedside instruction for 1 student. Number 16 is the approval for that storage container I mentioned. Number 17 is for those door alarms switches that I spoke about. And then number 18, I'm sorry, that was number 17. Number 18 is some adjustments, change orders and increases in contract amounts for those Bartle structural repairs. And that's that. And number 19 is going to be this.
Change the light.
This light that's going to give me a migraine in like 3 seconds. Any questions for finance and facilities?
Yes. So this I don't know why I can't say that word. Preliminary budget here is what we saw with the tax increase and all the cuts.
Correct.
Okay, but it doesn't mean it goes through. It means we discuss at the next meeting and
So yeah, so this is what we're proposed. This is the balanced budget that we're presenting to the state to say this is our preliminary balanced budget. However, we still have to, obviously wait for the health benefits information and some other numbers and kind of see where we are. So those adjustments may be made after, throughout the next month.
And just to note, a tentative budget has to be approved and sent to the county for review by March 27th.
Okay, thank you, Allison. And so for personnel on the agenda items, we have an approval of withholding salary increment. For number 2, we have an approval of a termination. For number 3, we have approval of 5 leaves of absences, medical leave, administrative paid leave, and a couple of unpaid leaves of absences. For number 4, we have approval of appointments. We have volunteer softball coach, thank you. Weight room for the spring, AV technician support, event monitors, parent night at Bartle Elementary School, French translator at Bartle, paraprofessionals, team treatment meetings, AP proctors, and some leave replacements. For number 5, we have approval of change of dates and reason for additional instructional assignments, and that's changing some dates for staff members that were covering a maternity leave. And then for policies and regulations, number 1, we have policies and regulations for first reading, which are the policies and regulations that we discussed in the committees, employment of chief school administrator, resource materials, library materials, and then the regulations for those policies, resource materials, library materials. We also have policies and regulations for second reading. And those are a nepotism policy, sexual harassment of staff, public complaints and grievances, and the regulations for sexual harassment staff and public complaints and grievances. So now we can open up the floor to our second public comment period. How many people do we have online? Okay. Does anybody have their hand raised? Okay. Okay.
Hi. Hi, this is Abby Stern Cardinal. I just have a couple of questions for clarification that I might have missed. Just in terms of the budget, sorry, I wasn't able to ask during the first public comment. I'm wondering, is capital reserve or emergency reserve able to be used for salaries, or is that earmarked for facilities and other projects? So I was curious whether that could be considered for salaries or if that's separate. I also was a little bit confused about the cost for students who are out of district. And I'm wondering if it costs more for a student to be out of district or in district, because it sounds great that we're able to serve students in district at this point. And I thought that that would be beneficial in terms of the budget, but it sounds like that might be costing more. So I'm a little confused about that because I thought that sending kids out of district was a significant cost. Sorry, I have a couple more questions. I figure I'll just run through them. Oh, I might have missed, so I can rewatch if I missed this, but just the outcome or the math pilot, I think I heard a little bit of mention of it, but I don't know if there's anything that can be shared at this point. I know it just ended, so probably some information to share at some point about that. And then my last question is about the pre-K expansion, just whether there's still discussions going on about that. My understanding is with this new classroom will be up to 7 pre-K classrooms, but out of that 7, 4 of them are covered through 4 trailer or modular classrooms. So that really only is 3 if we're talking about what's in the current facilities. So I'm wondering if there's continuing to be discussion, because I know from past meetings it has to get up to 14 or 15 classrooms. So that's still a big gap, and I'm just wondering what steps are being taken with that that kind of long-term problem that we have. So that's all my questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Abby. Is there anyone else? Okay. Well, then with that, we will close public comment and move on to board action items.
Let people know about the capital reserve thing, just so it publicly can be, is that possible?
It is not possible. Capital reserve and emergency reserve capital reserve is only to be used for capital improvements. And the amount in capital reserve cannot exceed your long-range facilities plan, which ours doesn't come near to it. An emergency reserve can only be used for security or health benefit adjustment.
All right, for curriculum instruction, I'm moving items 1 through 11.
Second.
Dr. Beatty,
Yes.
Ms. Cassel Dunn,
Yes.
Mr. Maldonado,
Yes.
Dr. Pixley,
Yes.
Ms. Prus,
Yes.
Dr. Schoolman,
Yes.
Ms. Stanio, Ms.
Yes.
Gardman.
Yes. Oh, yeah, Monique?
I'm here.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Sorry, I know I didn't get to check in for
I
attendance.
had crossed you out before, sorry.
That's okay. I'm sorry.
Is that a yes?
Is that a yes?
So yes, yes. Did you call my name? Okay.
For finance and facilities, I'd like to move numbers 1 through 18.
Second?
For a second. Carolyn? Okay. Dr. Beatty,
Yes.
Ms. Cassel Dunn,
Yes.
Coleman, Dr.
Yes.
Coleman, Mr. Maldonado,
Yes.
Dr. Pixley,
Yes.
Ms. Prus,
Yes.
Dr. Schoolman,
Yes.
Ms. Stanio,
Abstain on number 1 and yes to everything else.
Ms. Bardman,
Yes. Oh, and then it's me. Okay, for personnel, I would like to move numbers 1 through 5.
Second?
Dr. Beatty,
Yes.
Ms. Cassel Dunn,
Yes.
Dr. Coleman,
Yes.
Mr. Maldonado,
Yes.
Dr. Pixley,
Yes.
Ms. Prus,
Yes.
Dr. Schoolman,
Yes.
Ms. Stanio,
Yes.
Ms. Bardman.
Yes. And then for policies and regulations, I move numbers 1 and 2.
Second.
Dr. Beatty,
Yes.
Ms. Cassel Dunn,
Yes.
Dr. Coleman,
Yes.
Mr. Maldonado,
Yes.
Dr. Pixley,
Yes.
Ms. Prus,
Yes.
Dr. Schoolman, Ms. Stanio,
Yes.
Ms. Bardman.
Yes. Okay, and now we can move on to board liaison reports. Does anyone have liaison reports?
Yes, I have one for Board of Health. And I'm sorry, I didn't pull it up yet. If anyone else wants to, I gotta find that screen I had up. If anyone else wants to go, but give me a second.
Really quickly, the final focus group for the special education program evaluation is this Wednesday, 6 o'clock for caregivers who have students that are receiving services, and 7 o'clock for general public, I suppose. Well, I guess caregivers of parents in our school or of kids in our school. But really, if you go to the time that you can make it, we just really want people to be there.
It's Tuesday, not Wednesday.
Is it 20? Oh, is it Tuesday? Yeah. 23rd. Is it 24th?
24th.
Okay, this is the second time I've messed up on this date. You know what? It's the first few were on Wednesdays. That's why. Sorry, it is tomorrow. It is tomorrow. The final focus group for the special education program evaluation is tomorrow. Thank you, Nikki. Because I would have been on that Zoom Wednesday at 7, being like, well, what is going on? I can't believe it. So 6 o'clock again, if you have a student that's receiving services, 7 o'clock. If you are, any other parent that wants to give input, but honestly, just come when you can come.
The Highland Park Commission for Universal Access met. We had our very own interim director for special services, Amy Coppola, who was an invited guest. So we talked about out of district placements versus in-district placements. I'll just say in-district placements are much cheaper. So the prior question that was asked, but she also updated on like how many students are actually served through special services in the district. We talked about CPAG, encourage people to attend the events and respond to the surveys and whatnot. We talked about the GLOW program and Buddy Ball. It was great to have her, and I think updated the commission on a lot of things around the district. and with an update too, since they've donated to Glow and Glow Junior about how those programs are impacted by the money, and so she told them how that money's being used, and so it was just really nice to have her there and really informative. So just wanted to say that.
I have an update from the Highland Park Educational Foundation on Saturday, April 11th from 7:30 to 10:30 at Pino's. There will be an 80s dance party fundraiser. So crimp your hair or slick it back and roll up the sleeves of your blazer. Tickets are $35. There'll be a DJ, a 50-50 raffle, a best dressed prize. Again, that is on Saturday, April 11th, 80s dance party fundraiser.
I do plan on being there, and that is my birthday weekend, so I hope that you will join me.
The next time we do this, I'm going to move that they call it the safety dance. I think that would have been a much better name for an 80s dance party fundraiser, but I guess I could have changed it when I printed out the posters today, but I did not do so. April 11th at Pino's.
Okay, and this is Monique here for the Board of Health. They met on March 12th. And again, they're just really eager to find ways to lend their expertise and backgrounds to support the school district. Mental health issues was an area of interest for the Board of Health members. They expressed a desire to find ways to support the district with our efforts to support our students around their mental health. So I think that's something that perhaps Dr. Suska, you can kind of think about with your leadership team. If there's any way that the district could possibly tap into the expertise of our Board of Health members, they are more than willing to be of service in any way they can in that regard. There are a few, at least a couple, I believe, Board of Health members who will specifically do research or work around that area of mental health. They also talked about, and this was an issue raised, I think, at their last meeting, about their desire to have a new student rep for this school year, or if the previous student rep would like to return. They're just not sure exactly what the status is on that at this point. They did reach out to Elizabeth Asmoa and hadn't heard back from her yet at that time. So we'll follow up with them on that. And then there was a question around the new lice policy and a question and a few comments that they wanted to share. One, let's see, that removing a student for head lice is typically not advised by the Board of Health. They also so they question sort of why removal is a part of our policy. Their exclusion is not recommended from a Board of Health perspective, and there is no state regulation requiring this. So again, that was just a concern that they expressed. They also sort of just advise the district to be careful in communication around lice, which I'm sure, you know, our district has been doing, just making it clear that lice is not a disease. It's, you know, this is kind of a normal part of our student and childhood experiences, so to speak, for many students, but just to be really careful when we're communicating with the parents in that effective manner and being clear about lice not being a disease. So again, just some input that they shared around that, and again, questions around the exclusion component of the policy. And I know I did ask Dr. Suska just to provide some background on that, so I will be reporting back to the Board of Health on that. Let's see, what else can I share from that meeting? The borough reported that they are collaborating with the library on the distribution of hygiene products at the library. So that's a positive note there. The Board of Health has also communicated with the teen library, and they're setting up the first purchase of those products as well. And I think that's it. Yep, that's all I have on that.
And so then on the athletic boosters, I would just like to update that there was a fabulous designer bag bingo. It happened. It was super fun. And thank you to everyone on the school board who helped us sponsor one of the bags. I forget who won it, but yeah. Yes. Okay, is that it for the? Okay, yeah. Okay, well then I'm just gonna move on to the president's report, which is the budget process was a little different this year, timing wise than it normally is because we have a new governor. And so the budget address and therefore our aid numbers were delayed in us receiving them. So all of the dates got pushed back. And we were originally scheduled to have a board meeting solely to discuss the budget that would have happened last week. We weren't able to do that because of, again, the timeline and process. However, given the budget and what we're proposing, I believe the plan is that we are going to add a budget discussion meeting to allow for more community input before we vote on the final before we vote to adopt a budget at our next regularly scheduled board meeting. So we'll send out a notice, but there will be an additional budget discussion meeting on April 13th where there will be more community input. Maybe we might even have our healthcare numbers, like some of this might be, and we will be able to discuss that more fully. Okay, old business. New business.
Say happy birthday to Dr. Siska.
Happy birthday.
Thank you.
Happy birthday.
Thank you.
Should we sing? Or should we
Thank you for putting
spare
that under new business, not old business.
Okay, well then I move that we adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.